artist has a bucket list. Stuff they want to do, things they want to achieve, places they want to perform in, people they want to collaborate with. Everybody has something. For Astad Deboo, one item on the bucket list was really quite important, and that was to collaborate with a classical dancer. We spoke about it many times. And once Mr. Yagniraman of Sri Krishnagana Sabha also wanted to commission a collaboration between Astad and me, but anyway, that never happened. So it had to be in distant Chicago, all the way, 11,000 miles away, that Astad's dream actually happened. And the one who made it come true was a colleague and a dance icon in the USA, Hema Rajagopalan, a Bharatanatyam dancer, now a teacher, and the artistic director of Natya Dance Theatre. So I happened to be in Chicago just days before the premiere, and I was very, very fortunate. Rehearsals. And watching rehearsals is really a very precious process because they're really up close. Everything is being tried and you don't quite know if it's working. And it's a great way to actually observe a dance production coming together. Welcome, Hema. Welcome.
Hi,
welcome.
Anita. How are you?
And for the audiences who are joining us and who may have joined us through the day of conversations honoring Astad's 74th birthday, Hema Rajagopalan has just received the Legacy Award as one of the jewels, one of the prime jewels of the Chicago Midwest. I mean, she's been there for 45 plus years and really has stamped her unique imprint, using her love and knowledge of Bharatanatyam and classical dance arts. So Hema, I was just telling our audience about how much Astad wanted to collaborate with a classical dancer. He wanted to work with classical dance. Well, he couldn't make it happen in India, and you made it happen in Chicago.
Yes.
So I want to focus on Inai. The production was called Inai, which is the Tamil word for embrace. Yes? So there was Hema and Astad as the two principal dancers. And Hema had assembled a terrific musical ensemble and live orchestra from India. I think all of them were from India, if not most of them. And there was Shamshul and Ritam Banerjee, the photographer. And it was so beautiful, Hema. Let me tell you two things that stood out, and we'll take the conversation from there. There was a jati. And I'm thinking, what is Astad going to do with a jati? Okay? And from the discussion that we had, you said that he insisted that the jati be there in the work.
Yes, yes. So right from the get-go, I think Inai started, the project Inai came into being as a seedling, I think way back in 1918. And even before that, I had interacted with Astad and Shirley Modine. She's a modern dancer. We had some kind of a workshopping together. We even traveled to India, did some work together. I was always intrigued by Astad's, hand movements. And, there is a way of doing, there's a way of communicating that was so clear to me, at least, a lot of times. And I loved his meditative twirling that he did as well, which really, and once there was an opportunity that I met with Astad, and there was another musician, and at that point I said how wonderful it would be if you, if I commissioned your work with a Carnatic musician. He wasn't very keen on the Carnatic aspect at that time, but later agreed. Anyway, long story short, since we are focusing on Inai, so we started this project. He was very keen that he wanted to, do a really hardcore collaboration with classical Bharatanatyam, and he insisted that I should be performing. And I thought originally, fine, I'll do Abhinaya, because I don't think I can be doing a three-color jati in its proper way that I used to with my knees the way it is and with my age. And he said, no, I insist that you must do a three-color jati. So that's how that aspect really came into being, because he insisted. Because I think Astad really wanted this for many years. Maybe it didn't come, and it came through at this point. So I was very fortunate, and I was very overwhelmed that he collaborated with me. So yes, and he improved. The aspect that I want to share with you and the audiences is what I like about Astad's work is his on-the-spot improvising aspect, which is what it was. So we did about 4 shows. All 4 shows were different. It was just a map thing. Of course, we did storyboarding, we did all those things and where we need to stand or whatever. But he improvised every second, every minute with the result. There was one show that, the lighting people didn't know what to do because, he came in when he was not supposed to. And so that happened actually. And it was in an expressional segment, Varigalamu. So, and the Abhinaya aspect, it was just amazing that he actually initiated. He said, no, since you are, Kalanidhi Mami's student and all, you must do a padam. So that's how I did a padam. You saw Payyada I did, and I was wondering how in the earth is he going to really improvise? I don't know how it's going to work out. And Sikil Gurucharan was there here in the studio when we actually rehearsed, but he did send a recording earlier. And that was when it was a really memorable moment, because all my students, the dancers who were, in the production were sitting, and everyone was just awestruck at Astad's, so nicely weaving into whatever I did. And, you could see some of the images, it's later when I saw the images, I thought, oh my God, it's just so gelled so beautifully without even my knowing, and I didn't initiate anything. It was just him overlapping, and all those emotions that I did, he emulated without actually seeing me. He was next to me, but not really in front of me. So that is the beautiful aspect of Astad. And I think, I really, really so miss him, apart from him being such a beautiful dancer, choreographer. He was just such an extremely wonderful human being, I have to say.
My impression when I saw rehearsal, right? And you were doing Payyada, and for the benefit of the audience, it's a very classic Kshetraya kind of, it's a lament. It's a song, it's a lament of a woman who feels that the man she loves has lost interest in her. So it's a lament.
Yeah.
So here was Hema doing it in a way that she responds to, it's Carnatic music. She knows the lyric, she knows the mood, she knows the rasa. But there was Astad Deboo, who I don't know if he has heard Payyada before, if he knows the cultural context of Payyada and how it was a composition that was made famous by the Bala Saraswati family. I mean, it's a very precious composition. And when I watched rehearsal, Hema, there was Astad with every long note of Sikil Gurcharan's. It was like, did he know the music? Was he anticipating the music? He didn't know the language, but between his shoulders, his spine, and
his bend,
his bends. That's what I said. His spine, his bends, and the way he used his arms. It was so beautiful that I thought that is also Abhinaya. I thought if Kalanidhi Mami was alive, she would have had to watch that and say,
absolutely.
Idu kuda Abhinaya.
Absolutely, you're so right. And he didn't, and Gurucharan, I don't think he would have sang. When you saw it, Anita, it might have been the 3rd time that he might have sung it. Okay. So it's not that many times that he had sung it, because, he wasn't here. He was just here a week before that. So yeah, that's the amazing quality of Astad.
And Hema, not many dancers would even think that they would insist on having their photographer travel with them
Yes.
you know, and of course, and there was rhythm there. And so all those iconic photographs of Astad at the Bean, Anish Kapoor's Bean, was happened during the time he was in Chicago.
Yes, yes.
And you know, I remember Shamshul and those giant puppets, right? There was one in which he was actually, you were being embraced. It was,
Yes, yes. And that was such a memorable moment, Anita. It was actually, I want to say that it was in Chennai when we rehearsed first. And when he introduced the aspect, you know, he heard about this concept of mind, connections, embrace, inai, and the times that we are going through, you know, how disconnected we are and why we have these walls and boundaries and unnecessary baggage that we carry, and we don't come through, we're not transparent, we don't break through, and how the equality, the disparity is there among so many different stratas, so on and so forth. So when we talked about the whole thing in beforehand, and he said, you know, we must introduce a puppet, a live puppet, you know, a human, a life-size puppet. And I said, how will that work with Bharatanatyam? What am I going to do? What am I getting into? No idea. So we worked about 10 days in Chennai. And the very first thing that he did was to show me what this puppet was, you know, and what it can do. And, you know, even the fact there's one image that, you know, I have, which is amazing, where both of us are moving together, turned towards the puppet. It was just something that we were working through. We turned together and looked at this huge puppet, which was just embracing. You know, even that image is such an embracing moment. It was just, you know, enormous. And the two hands coming together, it was just a memorable moment for both of us, because, you know, we both turned without realizing that we were turning the same way. So we come from two ends and we just turned, and that was an amazing, memorable moment. So it was Astad who had ideated this concept of the puppet, you know, coming in and being a spokesperson for our conflicts, something like
yeah.
that.
And I was thinking about, you know, there are a couple of extra superfluous scenes, you know, that when I was in rehearsal, and you know the ones I'm talking about, and I was saying, what is this here, and
The
why
Gandhi,
isn't
Gandhi
Astad
one, right?
putting his foot down? I mean, it doesn't really belong here. And how come I'm not seeing any diva attitude now? He's so quiet. He's so well behaved. Where is the famous Astad sometimes saying, I don't think this works, because it was as much his name on the collaboration as it was yours.
You know,
You
he
know,
might have said that at the end. Who knows? You know, he might have said no to that. But I think that was written in the script by Sujata Vijayaraghavan. You know, that was one of the things. But then, of course, we discarded it.
I think I talked you out of it. I
You did.
talked
You
I
certainly
sat there and I said, this is out, out,
out.
out. Yes, I
And,
remember that.
yeah, and the brilliant aspect about which I liked about Astad, I've heard a lot about Astad being, you know, being the diva and, you know, so on and so forth. But with me, at least when I started working with him, whether it was in Chennai or whether it was in Chicago, he was here for almost a month. On the whole, he might have been here for a month and a half. So it was more like, you know, it was very, very, very like a Sahridaya aspect, you know, he was very absolutely wonderful to respect what I was saying and he was saying. And we both were very much together in sync with what we wanted. So we didn't have too many issues, you know, really. And it was fun. It was fun in the sense he was very childlike. And I found him to be absolutely childlike, coming to the studio, working with my dancers, you know, cracking jokes and finding out what they did that day. Even today, they talk about how human he was, you know, and even after the shows were over, even after the collaboration, how he kept in touch with each one of us, you know, talking about, you know, how you are, how are your children, so on and so forth. I think that aspect of it, apart from it even if you're in the rehearsal mode, if you're in work mode, the interlacing of those human qualities that he had, I think brought out the best in all my dancers, at least.
Okay.
There was no ego, things. There was no this, that I didn't get that part, so on and so forth. And that was amazing.
Did he work with your dancers? Did he do any warm
Yes.
ups?
Yes,
Okay.
he not only did warm-ups, he did his warm-ups, and he also introduced some workshopping, which my dancers insisted, by the way.
Okay.
They wanted to know how he moved, so that we can, and I did choreograph some movements inspired by his movement. He had some movements like this with his leg up. There were some odd hand gestures that I had to
Yeah, he
manipulate.
always, yes, I know
Yeah,
he has
it
this
was
sort of,
very odd.
yeah.
But then we do have it in the production as well. So because my
Okay.
dancers really wanted that. And of course, I also, when I work with collaborators, I like to be inspired. I like to involve their movements and create my own, which is in my own genre, but then it kind of mirrors what they do, which was very nice. And we did a lot of workshopping. And he insisted that he also wanted, there was a veru plain nattadu, nattadu, teyyum tatta teyyum tatta.
Yeah.
He wanted me to do it, so many times. So he did something with it, you know. It was not in the jati, not in the jati aspect, but he did improve. He did involve something when he did his solo. So
Ah,
when he did some solos, which was just amazing. George Brooks was playing the saxophone, and there was a segment where he just comes in. It's his solo, and it's just saxophone. It's just amazing when he did. So he did some of the movements inspired by Adabus.
wow. I
Because,
know,
uh,
yeah. But Hema, you also are an experienced dancer, closer to age to Astad's,
yes,
in that sense. Do you think you learned something from him?
absolutely. I learned a lot, not just one or two. I have reams of things that, I always take notes when I'm writing, and I write a lot of notes. I write a lot of storyboarding, and I do a lot of sketches. So there's some amazing archival footage, also videotapes that I have, which is really a treasure for me, because this is the first time I'm actually collaborating with a contemporary Indian contemporary dancer. Because
Yeah.
I've never really collaborated with a contemporary dancer from India. So, and he was such a wealth of knowledge, not only on the aspect of the movement vocabulary, it was also on the aspect of the thought process. And we always talked, we sat around, we discussed. So we had to kind of vocalize what we want to say, because there were several vignettes. There was also this Nandana aspect that we did.
Yeah.
I did Varigalamo. We talked about the disparity, and we talked about breaking of the walls and the transparency, and how he would deal with it, how he was. And he came in from one end, and I came in from one end, doing absolutely different movement vocabulary. But then the design aspect of it, how do you design it? So those elements, he was just impromptu, like, he would just come up with it, and I would make notes, and we would of course delete, but so many things. But that aspect was amazing. And also his ideas about costuming, or stagecraft, for example, even lighting. And I think he was a walking encyclopedia in terms of, he had that knowledge. Of course, you can see, and my dancers knew, like, he would just see, he acted also like a dramaturge sometimes, he would say, come this way, Asani. And of course, with his dancers, he will get a little anxious, like with Shamshul. He would say, ऐसा नहीं, क्या करते हो तुम, ऐसा नहीं, no, ये नहीं चलेगा, like, he would get a little upset. And then he would say, Shamshul would do many movements to see whether this would be right, but then he would get up and show him. So yes, I learned a lot. And above all the other aspects. The human quality is what I learned, how to, even when the kindness, the heart, where his heart, how he took care of his own, dancers apart from us, that love that he shared, I would really cherish. I will never forget the time that he every day called me from Mumbai. The whole month that I was in the hospital with my father in, I think it was 2019, December or January, something like that. Every day he would text me, how is he doing? So, from that aspect, not only did I learn about the craft that I'm so passionate about, but it's also about life skills and how to become a good human being, how to care. So
I
from
know.
that point of view, I miss him a lot.
Hema, some brilliant artists are terrible human beings,
Yes.
right?
I,
Yeah, they're brilliant. So Shirley MacLaine said something absolutely lovely once, which is she hit the nail on the head. She said, on one hand, you have to earn the right to be a bitch. Okay. I mean, you have to be so brilliant that people sort of have to put up with you. Yeah. But here was Astad, brilliant and so wonderful. So it's obviously, from what I hear from you, it's hard not to be moved by somebody who just never thought of a collaboration as a gig. And it's
yes.
done, you finish, you've got your great standing ovations, you get your reviews, you get your payment, move on. Yeah?
No, in fact,
So
his project, he wanted this night to be performed in Krishna Sabha, for
he
example.
told me, he told
Yeah,
me.
so yeah, it was only cost prohibitive for us because of all the entourage, bringing them there, and even, bringing George Brooks from California. But then he said, no, let's think about how to improvise and how to make do with a smaller budget. But he's always thinking, he was always, and I want to say that even though let's say it was a collaboration, but apart from that, he put his heart and soul into it. It was not a business thing, like, because I've collaborated with so many genres of, even in the West, right? But it was more about time, and this is how much, my work is here, this is my time. It was nothing like that, Anita. There was no time, what's the schedule, I can only work for these many hours. It's not like that. If it didn't work, he would say, let's do it again, I'll come back and we'll do this, or that. And I wanted to say one more thing, that he came on his own at his own cost in July of 2019 when it was not scheduled. We met in March or April in Chennai for like 10-15 days. And then the idea was that he would come a month earlier to the performance in November. But he came in July, for another 10 days on his own. He came to London, and he said, is it okay if I came? I will bear the cost. And who would do that?
Well, because I think he wanted to make the connection, to make sure that in
Yes.
November that it would be smoother. I
Yes.
think an artist with the right intention would do that. But
Yes.
I mean, there are very few people like that,
Yes.
who stretch themselves over and
Beyond.
beyond, over and
Exactly.
beyond. Well, I'm telling
Beyond.
you, on behalf of all Bharatanatyam dancers, we are both delighted and jealous that, okay,
And
that you
I'm
got
so
to work,
thankful.
with Astad, Deboo, and now you have the photographs, you have the footage. But I think it's a great, I'm very happy for Bharatanatyam,
Yes,
that you
I
got to
am too.
collaborate with a Bharatanatyam artist of your reputation and experience. And it's so good for the art form, to have had just that exposure to what Astad represented.
Yes.
Because he loved, he was so respectful, for the classical arts. And he had a few dancers that he really, really admired and kept in touch with. So I think it's a beautiful memory. Thank you so much, Hema.
Thank
It's
you,
his birth,
Anita.
yeah, it's his birthday today. Let's just send up a beautiful wish.
Yes,
And
thank you, Astad, and be
yeah,
happy wherever. Be with us always.
yes, yeah.
Thank,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Anita. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye
Bye.
bye.